This edition of A Taste of Sri Aurobindo is titled Science Scans Bright Pebbles on the Shore. But before I go further, the love and blessings of the Mother and Sri Aurobindo to all of you from Sri Aurobindo Ashram, Delhi branch. Science has two types of limitations, and Sri Aurobindo has talked about both of them in different works of his at different places. One of the limitations of science is that its sphere of exploration is limited to the physical, and for those parts of truth, those aspects of truth which are beyond the physical, are not only out of the realm of science, the methods of science are both inadequate and inappropriate for exploring those dimensions. And therefore, it gives us facts in great depth and detail, which Aurobindo has appreciated at different places, how it has contributed to the body of knowledge of the human race, but it is limited to one aspect of the truth. The second limitation of science is that the type of euphoria it had raised in the 19th and early 20th century, that it would wipe out all the problems of human existence, has not really materialized. These few lines from Savitri that I'll be discussing today talk about the first of these limitations, that is, the limited sphere in which science investigates the truth. The lines have been taken a little out of context, but what Sri Aurobindo says in these lines fits so exceedingly well with the way science works, that I thought that we can give it that color. And before I go further, let me read out the lines. He sees as a blank stretch a giant waste, the crowding riches of infinity. The finite he has made his central field, its plan dissects, masters its processes. That which moves all is hidden from his gaze. His poring eyes miss the unseen behind. He has the blind man's subtle, unerring touch, or the slow traveler's sight of distant scenes. The soul's revealing contacts are not his. Yet is he visited by intuitive light, and inspiration comes from the unknown. But only reason and sense he feels as sure, they only are his trusted witnesses. Thus is he balked, his splendid effort vain, his knowledge scans bright pebbles on the shore of the huge ocean of his ignorance. Let me go over it slowly. He sees as a blank stretch, a giant waste, the crowding riches of infinity. We can consider he to be a scientist. What does he look at? Not at the crowding riches of infinity. The infinite has created all these marvels, manifesting itself in the universe, but that is not what he's interested in. He looks upon the riches of infinity, the invisible infinity that lies behind what is visible, as a blank stretch, a giant waste. Instead, what does he do? The finite he has made his central field. So his exploration is limited to the finite, the concrete, the visible, the palpable. Its plan dissects, masters its processes, and what does he do while investigating the finite? He dissects its plans in minute detail and tries to master its processes. That which moves all is hidden from his gaze. But what is it that moves all that he is exploring? What is it that is behind it that he does not care for, that his sharp instruments, his sensitive instruments miss? His poring eyes miss the unseen behind. So what is not visible, he misses it completely. To use the language of the Kena Upanishad, the scientist studies the eyes, but not that which makes the eyes see. The scientist studies the ears, but not that which makes the ears hear. He has the blind man's subtle, unerring touch, or the slow traveler's sight of distant scenes. So, the type of perception that the scientist has may be compared to a blind man's subtle, unerring touch. The sense of touch is extremely well developed in a blind person, and therefore, most of the time, he makes no error. But all the same, being blind, his view of what he looks at is partial. He may therefore interpret the elephant's leg as a pillar, not as part of an elephant. Uh, the other comparison that Sri Aurobindo has made is the slow traveler's sight of distant scenes. The traveler, traveling in a leisurely manner, look at charming, captivating distant scenes, greenery, hilltops, sunrise, sunset, and all the beauty of nature. But then he's looking at it all from a distance. And therefore, he's unable to again see the totality of those sceneries that he's admiring. The soul's revealing contacts are not his. The soul can be a source of knowledge, and it can reveal to us truths through routes other than the methods used by science. But to be open to this type of revelations is something that the scientist does not care for. Yet is he visited by intuitive light, and inspiration comes from the unknown. The scientist may not care for the revealing touches of the soul, but the soul has a way of putting in a word, and that it does, even to the scientist, in the form of an intuitive light or an inspiration from the unknown. And in fact, the fact is that scientists uh, have often achieved great breakthroughs by remaining open to this type of an intuitive sense. And in fact, the breakthroughs are made through this type of intuition about what might be true, although it may appear improbable and impossible, rather than through the slow millimeter by millimeter progress that systematic research uh, can achieve. Most of the research is systematic and it moves in small steps in a very orderly fashion. You have a certain body of knowledge and you find that there is something that is not known. That question arises from what is known, and then a piece of research explores this, and that question is answered. And in the process, a few new questions are raised, and then further research looks at those questions. So it marches in a systematic way, millimeter by millimeter. But that is not what achieves breakthroughs. What achieves major leaps is this type of an intuitive sense. And Therefore, the scientist does respond to it, but all the same, he does not trust this type of an intuition. He still trusts reason and observation at the physical level. Yet is he visited by intuitive light, and inspiration comes from the unknown. But only reason and sense he feels as sure. So, what the scientist is sure about is only reason and sense, that what he can perceive through the sensory organs directly or by magnifying their powers, what he can see with the eyes, or what he can see by magnifying the power of the eyes using a microscope. But he basically trusts reason and sense. They only are his trusted witnesses. So he trusts only these as witnesses. That is what they tell him they have seen, these witnesses have seen, is what the scientist trusts. Thus is he balked. Balked, means he is unwilling or hesitant to accept an idea. So he offers great resistance to accepting the idea that truth can be revealed by methods other than reason and sense, and that limits what he can know. Thus is he balked. And because of this resistance, because of this unwillingness and hesitation in accepting anything beyond the obvious, anything beyond what is visible, anything which can fit within the framework of reason, because of this resistance, his splendid effort wane. Although his effort is splendid, it remains in a way vain because it discovers only part of the truth. It may not be entirely useless, but all the same, he misses the total truth. In fact, one of the most important aspects of the truth, that is what lies behind what the scientist is exploring. Thus is evoked his splendid effort vain. His knowledge scans bright pebbles on the shore of the huge ocean of his ignorance. So if we compare the scientist's ignorance to be an ocean, he doesn't get into the depths of the ocean to discover true knowledge. Instead, he is quite content to examine, to scan the pebbles on the shore, which are bright, no doubt, which can be therefore very distracting. He gets distracted by those bright pebbles and keeps scanning them instead of getting into the huge ocean of his ignorance, the ignorance which characterizes the normal human mental consciousness, and that he cannot get rid of because, on one hand, his methods are inadequate and inappropriate for it. Secondly, he's not interested in those. Thirdly, if from those depths of the ocean he gets some intuitive knowledge, he doesn't trust it fully. He tends to dismiss it as something which is not worthy of much attention. But once in a while, when he does pay attention, he gets rich dividends also in terms of scientific progress. Let me go over these lines again. He sees as a blank stretch a giant waste, the crowding riches of infinity. The finite he has made his central field, its plan dissects, masters its processes. That which moves all is hidden from his gaze. His poring eyes miss the unseen behind. He has the blind man's subtle, unerring touch or the slow traveler's sight of distant scenes. The soul's revealing contacts are not his, yet is he visited by intuitive light, and inspiration comes from the unknown. But only reason and sense he feels as sure, they only are his trusted witnesses. Thus is evoked his splendid effort vain, his knowledge scans bright pebbles on the shore of the huge ocean of his ignorance. Thank you.